This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Whatever it took to bring him back and to teach us how to think. Teach us how to think. Because you see, the greatest thing in life is to learn how to think. And, you know, I say this all the time because I left Howard University and went back to Georgia. And while I was in Georgia, you know, Leo's grandmother would always watch me. And one day she said, "I thought you said that boy went to college." And she said he did. No, he didn't go to college. Because if he went to college, what is he doing reading all these books all the time? Every time I look up, he got a book he's reading. And if he had finished college, that would have been over. The mere fact that he's still reading these books means he didn't go to college. And so that was the logic that, you know, that's real, you know, in terms of people seeing things. But, you know, the greatest thing happened to me was, one day I was sitting there in Georgia, and all of a sudden, my mind was just like a light switch. You know, because I could tell the moment that my mind started clicking. And I'm out of Howard, you know, and the greatest thrill in the world. I mean, you wouldn't get a better thrill than just learning how to think. And so, you know, when we are, you know, here tonight listening to what Dick was saying, it was serious. It was serious. And, you know, the thing about it is, if he came back and went to an academic classroom and gave all of us pen and pad, and then began to do as lawyers do, and that is try to figure out what the legal issues are. And that's what he was doing. The whole night was dealing with legal issues. And, you know, because he says it in such a fluid and funny way, you know, a lot of times we miss the point. And that's the sad part about it, because you really have to listen to him 2 or 3 times. And you might get the point. You know, but this was absolutely a great lecture. It was absolutely a great lecture. And, you know, we're so fortunate to really have, you know, Dick around. Now, I know I've said a few things, and this is important. 4,000 years ago, when the white man was in caves, our people gave the world jurisprudence.
Yes. Right.
When the white man was in caves. And in that jurisprudence was the law, wills, and trusts.
Yes, come on.
And the purpose of the law, wills, and trusts is not to squander the legacy of the deceased.
Come on.
That's the purpose of the law.
Yes.
And so, you know, a lot of times I've been attacked, but I know it's real. You know, if we don't preserve Dick, and we don't continue the legacy, then when he does finally come to rest, it's going to be a slave burial. It's going to be a slave burial. Because all that he has given us, we would never have understood the process of how he's doing. And that's what's important. You know, because, as Dick said, if overnight we constantly started thinking and beginning to think it was going to be over. Because you see, we are in a world of trading places. This is a matter of stolen identity.
Yes.
They're us and we are them.
Come on. Right.
It's a matter of stolen identity.
Right.
And once we get back in our right mind, that would be the greatest revolution in the world.
How about it?
It will be the greatest revolution in the world, because once they realize that we're in our right mind, they will throw down their weapons
Right.
and know it was all over. That's just how simple it is. And so, again, I can't tell you, how much I really appreciate it. Because, Dick has this funny thing of talking and then bluffing. The bluff is, I'm getting ready to sit down and stop. And I'm sitting back there, no, Dick, you can't stop now. This is just too good. You got to keep this going.
Right.
And so, throughout his whole presentation, he's constantly bluffing. He's constantly bluffing, and you constantly saying, no, Dick, you can't do it now.
Right.
Not now. Maybe later, but not now. Because you own to something.
That's right.
And that's what was great about this presentation. And, the reality of it is, we have to stand for something.
Yes.
Otherwise we'll fall for anything.
Yes.
And one of the things that I'm standing for is not for me, because I'm on my 21st day of July will be 70 years of age. So I'm not here for me. I've already written my story. And it's in the public record.
Yes, come on.
Or it's already there. But I'm concerned about those young lawyers who are coming behind me. Because I remember in the New York Post reading an editorial. And it's in there, and it said, Maddox has to be stopped. And the Post was talking to the New York legislature.
Yes.
They said Maddox has to be stopped, because if he's not stopped, other black lawyers may try to emulate him. And we got a serious problem. Well, I knew then that it was over. Because you see, our people yet have not understood what's really going on in this society. And that's what Dick was pointing out tonight. And that's the reason why every morning before I go out of the house, I sit down with pen and paper and write every morning. And I do it between the hours of 3 to 8, because Dr. Pat Newton said to us once that that's when we're at our best.
That's right.
We're early morning hours, that's when we're at our best. Because you see, the ancestors are talking then in a way that you can't remember it later. See, if you don't write it down then, it's gone. At 9 o'clock in the morning, you say, wait a minute, what did they say? And that's when I began to realize, you got to get up in the morning early.
That's right.
To hear it and have a conversation with them, and then put it down on paper immediately.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's gone. Because what they give you is so mind-blowing.
Yes.
The rest of the day, you can't retain it. You can't retain it. And you see somebody, they say, well, I'm sleeping between 3 and 8 o'clock. I can't get up early in the morning.
Yes.
Well, you deal with dead callers. All right? You deal with dead callers, because if you are in a situation where you're sleeping between 3 and 8, you done missed it. You have missed it. And so, Phyllis, let's give Phyllis one more round of applause. And this morning, I was up early, and then on the CBS Morning News, they had a story about Creflo Dollar. And the story was about Creflo saying that he needed $65 million to buy a luxury jet plane. And then the contrast was they had this black woman, because Creflo's Dollar's church is in College Park, Georgia. And so this black woman was about to get on the MARTA bus. And the radio reporter, a television reporter said, well, man, where are you going? And she said, I'm going to see Creflo. On a bus? Isn't he trying to get a $65 million plane? And she said, yeah. Well, why are you on a bus? She said, because Creflo has 12 churches in 12 cities, and he has to do the Lord's work. He has to do the Lord's work. And so I support Reverend Dollar in what he's trying to do. Now, the reason why I say that, because you know, all the things that I've tried to do in this city. After a few years, when I started practicing law, right on 125th Street, right up the street, the poverty program, because to me, that was our number one problem. Yes. You see, a lot of other lawyers say, well, I'm a government lawyer, I'm this and that. But I said, well, I want to be a poverty lawyer. And so people say, a poverty lawyer? I said, yeah, because that's our number one problem. And I'm a problem solver. So if I can solve the problems of poverty, you know, I can solve my people's greatest plight. And so I came 125th Street, and that's what I started doing. But in the process, I became the best attorney in all of New York City.
All right.
Right there in the property program. You know, I became the best. I would win all kinds of cases in the first 2 or 3 years. Right there on 125th Street. I mean, I was dealing with everybody under the sun, representing everybody, involved in everything. Right there on 125th Street. You know, you could find me there 24/7. Because, you know, I tell people all along that ethics is significant to us as a people.
Come on.
But work ethic is an element of ethics.
Right.
So if you're not into work ethics, you're not ethical.
Right.
That's what it boils down to. That's what it really is about. And so, you know, when I got ready to leave, or when they got ready to kick me out, I'm not being nice. I'm getting ahead of myself now. You know, when they got ready to give me the boot, all right, you know, I left, went down to the National Council of Black Lawyers, and did a lot of great things down there. Brought about the lawsuit against the New York Department of Corrections, requiring them to give young blacks 15, 16 years of age the ability to go to college afterwards, and forced the state of New York to pay for it. And never knowing at the time that there was going to become another case called the Central Park 7.
Come on.
And so when I went into the Central Park 7, fortunately my client case was dismissed. But the other 6 had to suffer. And when they went into college, when they went into prison, they took advantage of what I had done at the National Council of Black Lawyers. That is, in allowing and requiring the state of New York to provide an education to all young people. Now, I say all that because when I left National Council of Black Lawyers, I realized that I couldn't work for anybody because nobody would tolerate what I was doing. You know, so I realized I don't have to go and get a law practice. But then the problem was, and I figured this out, the best lawyers in New York City at that time was charging $1,000 an hour. And since I was the best lawyer in New York City, black folks couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford what I was offering. Black folks look at you and they don't think, and they don't know what they're getting. But I knew what they were getting. And they were getting the best legal service that Wall Street could offer.
Right.
Come on.
You see, because when anybody came to the office, I treated you as though you were being represented by Wall Street and Wall Street lawyers, and would give that. And so, at that particular time, when we started out, I said, I can't charge black people for my services because they can't afford it. And so that's the reason I became the greatest pro bono lawyer in New York. Because nobody could afford it. I mean, even A.L.L couldn't afford it. He couldn't afford it. For what? Anytime you got 7 count indictment, he couldn't afford it now, but he couldn't afford it then. All right, and so it's a matter of saying, I got to start a law practice, and I had to go to 16 Court Street because I wanted black people to have the best they could get. And I couldn't get the largest law office, but I got a law office, and the books that I couldn't store in the office, I was right across the street from 2 major libraries, the Brooklyn Supreme Court and the Federal Court. And then right across the bridge, you had all these other law libraries. And so, and then beyond that, we lived right up the street from Columbia. And so on the weekends, I could be in Columbia all day and night. And I did. And so that's the point. But the point is, at this age, at 70, I don't really need another law library.
Come on.
So the money that we're trying to get here is not for me to start a practice again. Because, it's time for me to teach others. Dick and I at the age now where we have to teach others.
Amen.
All right, because we know we are in the fall of our lives at least. And winter is coming around the corner in our lives, so we know that. You have to be realistic. And so my point is that we're at a stage now where it's interesting that our people can get a luxury jet for Creflo,
Okay.
but they can't get a law library for themselves. And all of us are going to prison and got all these legal problems. And somehow or another, we don't think a law library is important, but it's very important for Creflo to get on the jet. Now, I'm not opposed to anybody living a good life. That's not what I'm saying here. But my point is, we got to get our priorities straight. You see, because when he mentioned the Gardner's case and Ramsey order and Garner, well, both of those cases at this point may not be going anywhere. All right. The reality of it is Ramsey ordered out on bail, but he's not getting ready to beat this case. You see, because you have to have a heavyweight when you go to Staten Island. You got to have a flamethrower. Somebody who kicked the courthouse door down first, and then come into the courthouse and take over things. And most lawyers right now don't have that mindset. And that's what's so beautiful about what Dick gave us tonight, is a real insight in what a real lawyer is about. That's what this is about. It's about what a real lawyer is about. And these are some very critical times. And some real serious questions have to be asked. And you have to have a probing mind like Dick has in order to deal with it. Because you got to be able to think outside the box,
Right.
and connect the dots. And that's what we have been fortunate to have tonight. And I want to thank all of you for coming out. work is only starting. It's not complete today. It's only starting. You know, there's a lot of work got to be done. But we got the capability to do that work. And that is what is really important. And so, you know, for me, Tawana Brawley was 1987. 28 years. And you see, what bothers me is we have done everything right except declare victory. That's what we're talking about tonight. Declare victory. Nobody will stand up and say we won. Because we did. It's in the public record. But we don't have anybody stand up and say we won. All right? You know, we not only won in terms of the 6 white men that raped Tawana, but in the process, we identified the murderers who killed Harry Chris.
Come on.
And nobody ever thought about that. You know, and the reason why it's hard for me to accept this, because this has been a war in terms of how do you destroy somebody.
Yes.
And that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened. I'm still here. You know, and if New York had thought in 1990 that I would still be around, they would have said, hey, we just borrowed him. You understand? I was only suspended. Now 5 years have gone past, and they coming with all these tales. They say, well, why can't this man be reinstated? And everybody's afraid to ask the question.
Come on.
Everybody's afraid to ask, well, how do you have a 5-year suspension order in black and white? And 25 years later, this man cannot practice law. Even if you thought that everything that I did was wrong, you still got a 5-year suspension. You know, so a lot of people say, well, I don't like Maddox because it doesn't matter. We talking about a 5-year suspension and 25 years later.
Right.
And when can somebody ask the relevant question? You know, we talking about leadership. I mean, what's wrong with black political leaders asking the relevant question? You ain't got to give the answer. You can just go to Cuomo's office one day and explain to me, Mr. Cuomo, how is it that a man that got a 5-year suspension, 25 years later can't practice law? Can you please give us the rationale for how that happens?
Right.
He had a 5-year definite suspension from the practice of law, which was questionable in itself. But we're going to forget about that. The reality of it, he's still here, 25 years later. And so, you know, as Dr. King said, how long, not long.
All right.
And that's real. Truth crushed the earth shall rise again.
Yeah.
And that's where it is. And that's why we are here, and that's why I'm thankful that you are here. As I said before, this is only the beginning, but we have to set a standard to let the world know that there are some things that we will not tolerate.
Amen.
Let's set the standard. And you see, and I want to say this finally, when we came out of slavery, there were 2 things that we never addressed. One, that we had a bad reputation as a group, as a class, coming out of slavery. We had a bad reputation.
All right.
And secondly, we had bad habits coming out of slavery. And neither one of those issues have been addressed. And that's the reason why I tell people all the time, and people here have been in court with me, there's 3 things I don't ever do. I never ask a black person to take the witness stand. Number 2, I never ask a black person what happened. And number 3, I never ask a black person to plead guilty. Those 3 things never happen. People have been here, they've never seen that. Because it doesn't happen. You understand? Because you know why? Because we can't speak the language that he was talking about. And that's important.
Yes.
We talk about how you can go to a Chinese restaurant and make an order and they take it in English. But when they give it to the chef or whoever they give it to, it's in Chinese. All right, you go to the pizza joint and you tell them in English. But when they get ready to make the order, it's in the mother language. That's important. Here we are talking in a language that we know nothing about. We don't have a mother language. We don't have any of that. And so this is where we are. And so, you know, as we leave here tonight, you know, again, I want to thank Brother John Beatty for really putting all of this together. Because what has not been told is that on December 12th, or before December 12th, I had a conversation with Sonny Carson. And I said, Sonny, I can't do this one. I know I did Howard Beach, I know I did all that. But now you're talking about the white man not liberating the black woman. That's still his property. That's what he sees it.
Yes.
He sees it as his property. And he sees me, if I rise up, as interfering with his right to his property.
You're right, brother.
And I told Sonny then, I said, look, man, I can't do that. I said, I can do Howard Beat with the white thugs, you know, beating the black boy and all of that. I said, but now you asking me to do something that's going to cut my throat.
Come on.
And I said, I know that. I know the history of this man. From day one, I know the history, his history. And he's not going to permit that. Because if he permits that, then he's going to lose a grip on the very thing that he believes that will keep him in power.
That's right.
So when Dick started talking about the hurricane and where it started and how they ended up, that was real. You understand what I'm saying? If you can really think. You see, so what he was saying tonight was deeper than what you may have realized. All right? So, you know, some of us, you know, be a little slow. You know, can't really put it all together. But when he was talking about it, that's real. And so I told Sonny, I got to have a deep commitment from the black man.
Come on.
You got to spell it out. And so on December 12th, 1987, activists from all around the country met at Newburgh, New York. And on that moment, they pledged that they were going to be behind me. The reason why I respect Brother Beatty, because to this day, he's still spending his money.
Come on.
All right, he's still spending his money. 28 years later. That's a fact. He's still providing a healthy allotment to help Tawana, who is now a person who has been victimized because even though Tawana Brawley's name appears on the complaint, Tawana Brawley was never served. And you know, this is very basic. You know, you're in the landlord and tenant court, the first question you ask is, did the landlord serve you?
Right.
And somebody said, well, no, they didn't serve. Well, man, you got to worry about that.
Right.
All right? That's the same thing happened to Tawana. She had never been served. She couldn't be served because she was the guardian ad litem. She needed a guardian ad litem. She was a minor. And under New York law, she was incompetent to receive a summons. So she couldn't be served. So this is not even, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure all of this out. You know, and so what my problem is, I worry that what happens when I'm no longer around.
Thank you.
Come on.
That's why this is urgent.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not this young boy of 45 now. And I know the clock is ticking. And it's not ticking in Tawana's favor. That's why it has to get serious. Then you have the Ramsey orders, the Eric Garner, the Mike Brown, everything gets busy. Ross come help me.
Come on.
Pitt, Pennsylvania. All right. Mamir Abu Jamal, Wayne Williams, Atlanta, Georgia. These are all states that I'm admitted to practice in.
Yes.
And they're all subjected to these wrongful convictions.
Come on.
And so it is very important for me tonight to see this support. You know, because it may not be what it should be,
Come on.
but it's better than what it could be.
All right.
And that's what's real. And in this regard, I want to thank Sister Maddox, who has really, she's gone.
Right.
Sit down.
She had, all right.